1283. The jungles of Cambodia. As Thai warriors marched into the greatest city on earth, they expected treasure, resistance, a fight. Instead, they found silence. 1 million people had vanished. The temples still stood. The reservoirs still held water. But the streets were empty. The Khmer Empire, builders of the largest religious monument ever constructed, had disappeared into the jungle they once conquered. For 700 years, no one knew why. Until now. To understand how the impossible happened, you need to understand what the Khmer Empire actually was. At its peak in the 12th century, Angkor wasn't just a city. It was an empire spanning modern-day Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam. The capital itself covered over 1,000 square kilometers. That's larger than modern Los Angeles. And at its heart sat something the ancient world had never seen, a hydraulic civilization. The Khmer didn't just build temples. They engineered an entire landscape. Massive reservoirs called barays held billions of gallons of water. Canals stretched for hundreds of miles. Rice paddies fed a population that dwarfed anything in medieval Europe. But here's what nobody talks about. This engineering marvel, this triumph over nature, contained a fatal flaw. One that would take centuries to reveal itself. And when it did, everything collapsed. The man responsible for Angkor's greatest glory was also the architect of its doom. Jayavarman VII rose to power in 1181 after a devastating invasion. The Chan kingdom had sacked Angkor, killed the king, and humiliated the empire. Jayavarman didn't just want revenge. He wanted to make the Khmer invincible. So he launched the most ambitious building program in human history. Angkor Thom, a new capital city surrounded by walls 8 meters high. The Bayon, a temple with 200 stone faces watching every direction. Ta Prohm, Priya Khan, Banteek Day, dozens of massive temples constructed simultaneously. In just 30 years, Jayavarman built more stone monuments than all previous Khmer kings combined. But this building frenzy required something the empire couldn't sustain, labor. Hundreds of thousands of workers. Pulled from the rice fields. Away from maintaining the water system. And this is where the first cracks appeared. Let me put this in perspective. Imagine every working adult in California suddenly being ordered to stop their jobs and start building monuments. For 30 years. That's what Jayavarman demanded. Temple inscriptions reveal the staggering numbers: 300,000 priests and servants for Ta Prohm alone. 79,000 workers for Priya Khan. And someone had to feed all these people. Someone had to maintain the canals. Someone had to manage the reservoirs. But those someones were now carving faces into stone. Now, conventional history tells you the Khmer Empire declined gradually. Weakened by wars. Conquered by Thailand. But here's where it gets strange. Recent LiDAR scans, laser mapping that penetrates the jungle canopy, have revealed something historians didn't expect. The infrastructure wasn't just neglected. It was deliberately abandoned. Miles of canals filled in. Reservoirs drained on purpose. As if the Khmer knew something was coming. But that's not even the strangest part. What researchers found in the sediment beneath Angkor tells a story that changes everything we thought we knew. Core samples from the ancient reservoirs reveal two catastrophic events. The first occurred around 1300, a megadrought lasting decades. The monsoons failed. The reservoirs emptied. Rice harvests collapsed. But the Khmer had survived droughts before. They should have recovered. Except this time, the drought was followed by something worse. The monsoons returned. Violently. Flooding so severe it destroyed the very infrastructure designed to manage water. Canals that had fed millions became weapons of destruction. And this is where I need you to pay attention. Because what happened next reveals why this matters far beyond ancient history. The Khmer had created a system so complex, so interdependent, that when one part failed, everything failed. Does that sound familiar? The Khmer Empire was the first casualty of what scientists now call infrastructure fragility. Their water system was brilliant, but it required constant maintenance. Thousands of workers clearing sediment, repairing gates, managing flow. When the labor force was redirected to building temples, maintenance stopped. When the megadrought hit, the reservoirs couldn't be refilled. When the floods came, there was no one left who remembered how to fix the damage. And then came the social collapse. Temple inscriptions from the late 13th century tell of rebellions, slave uprisings, religious conflicts. The god kings who had commanded the construction of Angkor Wat were now seen as failures. The gods had abandoned them. Why else would the rains betray them? By 1400, the population had dropped by over 90%. Not from invasion. Not from plague. From the failure of the very system that had made them great. And then it got worse. The Thai kingdom of Ayutthaya had been watching. Waiting. In 1431, they attacked. But here's the twist historians rarely mention. The invasion wasn't a conquest. It was an occupation of a ghost city. Thai chronicles describe entering Angkor and finding temples already consumed by jungle. Reservoirs empty. Streets overgrown. The battle for Angkor wasn't a battle at all. It was a cleanup operation. The Khmer elite had already fled south to Phnom Penh. The common people had scattered into the countryside. The greatest city of the medieval world was abandoned before the invaders even arrived. But this raises the real question. The one that has haunted researchers for decades. What happened to the people? 1 million humans don't just disappear. Where did they go? And why did they leave the greatest monuments ever built to be swallowed by the jungle? And this is where we finally solve the mystery. The people of Angkor didn't vanish. They transformed. Recent genetic studies and archaeological surveys have mapped the diaspora. Some fled south, establishing new settlements that would become modern Cambodia. Others scattered into village communities across Southeast Asia, their descendants still living today. But here's the revelation that changes everything. They didn't forget Angkor. They deliberately left it behind. Temple inscriptions from the final decades reveal a crisis of faith. The god kings had promised the water would flow. They had promised the harvests would come. They had built monuments to prove their divine power. And then the water stopped. The harvests failed. The monuments became evidence not of power, but of hubris. The Khmer didn't just abandon Angkor. They rejected it. A civilization that had spent 5 centuries building to the glory of divine kings chose to walk away rather than live in their shadow. The jungle wasn't conquering Angkor. The people were giving it back. Today, Angkor Wat still stands. 2 million tourists visit every year. They photograph the temples. They marvel at the engineering. But most never learn the true lesson of this place. The Khmer built the most sophisticated water management system in the ancient world. They created a civilization that fed 1 million people in the jungle. And they destroyed it themselves. Not through war. Not through plague. But through the belief that their system was too powerful to fail. They stopped maintaining what had made them great. They ignored the warning signs. They assumed the water would always flow. And when it didn't, everything collapsed. 700 years later, we're making the same mistakes. The question is whether we'll learn from Angkor. Or if future archaeologists will one day scan our cities through jungle canopy, wondering what happened to us. If you've watched this far, you now understand something most people never will, how the greatest city of the medieval world chose to disappear. But the Khmer weren't unique. History is filled with empires that built monuments while their foundations crumbled. If you want to see more stories like this, hit subscribe and the notification bell. And drop a comment below, do you think our modern cities could collapse the same way? I read every response. The story of Angkor isn't just ancient history. It's a warning. And warnings only work if we listen.